الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبي وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الهاديين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم تنزيله: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In our continuation with our session of last week, we spoke about the rights of women in Islam. And to be realistic, what we covered last week is a dropping out of the ocean of women's rights. Meaning there are more than that, according to our fuqaha and Islam. But I want to switch the gear today and talk about the rights of the men also in Islam. So that way there is some kind of fairness in the program. Because if we keep talking about one side, not the other, I don't think it's fair. They need to know their right too, so they know what to expect as well. But the bad news I have for the brothers is your right is very, very few compared to what the sisters are. That is the news. But our scholars also, they have mentioned the rights of men in Islam. Some of them are mentioned in the Quran and some of them in the hadith of the Prophet. Some of them are similar to what we mentioned last week, and some of them are completely different to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to men. Now, the first one that Islam has given to a man, which is one of the right of a man, is that Allah has given him the responsibility of the leadership of the family. Meaning, a man is the leader. Now a question comes, and I know this is going in the sister's mind. So are we not qualified to be leaders? Why he has to have the leadership in the house? The answer is no. Women, they are qualified too. Both man and a woman, they both qualify to be leaders. But guess what? One person has to be a leader at the end of the day. Right? Now if you have a car and you want two drivers to drive the car, so we both have driver's licenses, we all qualified, but we both want to drive the car. What will happen to the car? Disaster, accident. You get into the plane, there are two pilots, right? They both qualify, they both can fly the plane, but one person has to fly the plane at a time. Take it in Islam also. At the time of the Prophet was there, Imam Ali was there, Imam Hassan was there, Imam Hussein was there. All of them were qualified to be leaders. But guess what? One person was the leader at a time. At the time of the Prophet, he was the leader. Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, they were all followers, listeners. The Prophet left. Imam Ali took the charge. Imam Hassan was qualified. Hussein was qualified. But they were not leaders as Imam Ali was there. They were listeners. Imam Ali leaves. Imam Hassan takes the charge. Imam Hassan was listener. Whatever Imam Hassan did, Imam Hussein was listening. You are the Imam, you are in charge. That doesn't mean that the next Imam is not qualified. No. But one person has to be a leader at the point. So that's what the sisters have to understand. When Islam gives the leadership to a man it doesn't mean that sisters are not qualified. No, they are. That is why when a man is not there, who is the next in charge? A woman. The wife is in charge. Right? So in other words, in this line, Islam looks at the man and the woman as president and the vice president. Right? Vice president is not qualified to be a president. Yes, he is. That's why you call him vice president. He qualified. But one person have to lead at a time. And that happened to be not him, but somebody else. But he's well qualified. So the first ruling of Islam is that a man is the one who's supposed to be the one in charge in the house. That is the right of a man. That's number one. Number two, one of the right of a man also is that a woman must give him a comfort in the house. And that's from the Quran. In the ayah we just read, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَمِنْ آيَاتِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. As-sakina, comfort. That a woman in the house, she is supposed to make sure that whatever it takes in the house, in their life, to give the man peace of mind, that is her responsibility. A man always have to have peace of mind in the house. I have to create that environment. And I remember one of ulama, Hafadahullah, Ayatollah Qaraati, one of the mufassirin of our time, right now in Qom. He mentioned one year he was doing tafsir on TV all the time. And one of the years after Ramadan, they came and they were thanking him for one of the great work that he does in tafsir. MashaAllah. His tafsir is called Tafsir al-Nur, one of the great tafsirs also in the current time. They were thanking him for what he did. So he said, no, don't thank me. Who should you thank? You're the one doing the tafsir. He said, I have somebody behind the curtain who's working harder than I am. I said, who is it? I said, my wife. He said, what do you mean? He said, anytime I open the book, I see a chai is right there. And you know, Iranis, mashallah, they love chai. Right? Every office you go, there is a chai. Somebody special for chai. So that plays a big role. He said, anytime I open the book to do review or research, she is there with the tea and she makes sure that the environment is quiet. So I can concentrate, I can do my work. So she is the one who deserves the thanks. So that is one of the responsibility that Allah has given as the right of a man. That in the house, he needs to have a peace of mind. That is right number two of a man. So if a house is not peaceful, then we have to blame the wife. They have to create that environment for men. That is number two. Number three, one of the right that Allah has given to a man is that a woman is not allowed to leave the house without his permission. Oh, and I know here a big question comes, why is that? That is Islamic teachings. It's not mine, Islam says. When a woman wants to leave the house, she has to make sure that the husband is permitting her. If he doesn't permit, then that out is haram. Even if she's going to ziyarah. Allahu Akbar. She's going to ziyarah of Imam Ma'asum. They say it's haram. Why? Because ziyarah of Ma'asum is mustahab. Obedience to a husband is wajib. So you can't. The only time a woman can leave the house without his permission is if she is going to do a wajib. Example, Hajj is wajib upon me. I meet all the conditions. I want to go to Hajj. The husband said, no, you can't. Yes, Allah said, no, you don't have to listen to him. Because here there is a wajib, you have to. Because when the rule comes to the point where either I have to obey Allah or obey humans, who should I obey? Allah comes first. So in that sense, you are not allowed to obey him in things that is wajib. But other than that, in everything that you have to go, I have to go to see my parents. He said, no, then you can't go. It's my dad, he gave back. Yes. Guess what? He's the second dad. He's a dad too. That's what Islam says. Right? The women have three dads. One dad is the dad who gave birth. Two, the dad who married you. The third, the dad who taught you. The teacher. Right? So now Islam says you are not allowed to leave the house unless if you have his permission. Right? He said you can go anytime you want to go. You have a blank check. Right? That means he give you a blank check, anytime you can leave. Right? But without that, it's haram. And this incident happened at the time of the Prophet. That there was a woman who her father was sick. And the husband left the home and he told her, don't leave the house until I come back. So he left. After he left, the news came to the sister. Your dad is sick and he wants to see you. Then the woman sent a messenger to the Prophet. Ya Rasulullah, my husband told me not to leave the house. And another order came that my dad is sick and he wants to see me. What should I do? The Prophet said, don't go. Stay with your house. Later on, because those days there's no text message. Today, alhamdulillah, your husband is there, you text him. Honey, I get a message that my dad is sick. I say, yes, go. That's it. Those days, no text message, no phone calls. So she can't communicate with him. Now what happened? Later on, a message came to the woman. Your dad is sick and it's very, very serious. And he wants to see you. Hey, they went and told the lady, the sister, she was the Prophet. Ya Rasulullah, my dad's situation got worse. So can I go? The Prophet said, no, you can't. You have to stay at home. Later on, the next messenger came and said, they told the sister, your dad is dying and he wants to see you before he's dead. They asked Rasulullah, the Prophet said, no, you can't go. The woman, the father died. They asked her, can I see my dad? No. Allahu Akbar. After the dad died, later on the husband came. They told him they went to the funeral and everything. They invited the Prophet to the funeral. As they were putting him in the grave, they covered, they finished everything. Then Rasulullah said, now Jibreel came to me. And he said to me to tell you, telling the sister. He said, your dad has major sins that he deserves to be punished. But Allah has forgiven him and put him in the heaven because of your obedience to your marriage. Allahu Akbar. Because of her obedience to her husband, now didn't go against the teaching of the husband. Allah has granted her father a heaven because of that. Allahu Akbar. That is one of the rights of men on their women. That a woman should not leave the house unless the husband has given the permission. However, like sometimes the husband gives you permission. You can go anytime you want to go. I have no problem. That's a blank check. You can go anytime without his permission. But if you know that he does not allow you to leave, then it's haram to leave the house without his permission. That is one of his rights. Another right of a man that Islam has given to him is that it's haram for a woman to give something to somebody which belongs to her husband without the husband's approval. Somebody comes, my mom, my dad, any friend of me comes to house, can I give the food to that friend of mine, knowing that the food is from my husband? He provided, he bought it. It has to come from him first. If he doesn't permit, it's haram. Now, what happened to me? If the money is mine, I bought my own things. Can I give to other people? Yes, Islam says you can. That's yours. You don't need his permission to give something that belongs to you. But anything that belongs to the husband, things that he bought with his own money, with his own halal income, a woman cannot give away or take it out of the house without the husband's permission. That is his right. Before it goes out, it has to be confirmed with him first. And if he allows it, then it's fine. If he doesn't, then it's haram. That is another one of the right of the woman and the man. Another one. A woman also cannot bring something to the house without his approval. Something that doesn't belong to him. I want to bring somebody. I want to invite somebody to his house or to our house. The husband have to notify first that I want to do this. Is it okay with you? Can I bring this person to the house? Can I invite this person? Yes, then you can. If he says no, then you cannot. Meaning, in other words, taking something out of the house or bringing something to the house, it has to be in the permission of the husband. Unless something that belongs to you, that is different. Otherwise, it's haram because it's the right of a husband. Another one, they said, one of the right of a man in Islam also is that what we call, last week we mentioned this also for the women as well, but it's mutual, which Quran call it al-libas. Meaning, it's the right of the husband that the woman have to also cover his defect, his shortcomings. Things that you know about my husband, that my husband have these shortcomings in this area. Am I allowed to go and expose this to other people? No, it's haram in Islam. I have to cover him, as Quran says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ. It's a mutual right. That a husband is supposed to cover his wife and not to expose her shortcomings, and the same thing, a wife also is not allowed to expose her husband's shortcomings. That is his right. So if you know any of my husband's shortcomings, I have to protect that. Unless, in one situation, I want reconciliation. I want to tell someone to help him out, to correct those shortcomings, that is different. I'm bringing the third person because my husband is doing something that is affecting the whole family. And I talked to him, it didn't work. Now I needed outside help so he can help us to build our family and correct the mistake. In that situation, that is okay. But I'm just going out to tell people about my husband's shortcomings just for the sake of telling. That is haram. You can't do that. That is his right, that you have to cover his mistake and his shortcomings. That is another right as well. Another right that Islam has given to a man is that a woman must protect the money or the wealth of her husband. It's wajib. Whatever he brings home, he bought it for the house, I have to do whatever it takes to protect it. Meaning, I can't neglect it just because I didn't buy it. I can't take it literally. I don't care whatever happens to it. No, it's haram. I have to value everything that has a value in the house that he bought and the things that he bought for the house. A wife must take care of those things and value them as they are supposed to be valued. Something expensive he bought in the house, you have to take care of it. You have to maintain it. Yes, in the process of taking care of it, if something happened, knowing that you didn't neglect, that's different. But if I just don't care, that is haram. It's his right that you're supposed to take care of whatever he bought for the house. That is the husband's right. That is another right. Another right, which is amazing. In Islam, a woman is not allowed to do anything nafila, whether it's salat or fasting, unless he approves it. Yes. Oh, mashallah. That's something new. Yes. I want to do something nafila. I want to fast nafila salah, nafila fasting on Thursday, on Monday. I have to check with him first. If he says, oh yes, go ahead, then that's fine. If he says no, Islam says don't do it. But you know what is amazing? If you don't do it, because he says it, Allah says we're going to give you the credit. You didn't do it because of your husband. Islam says you have the credit from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A salat al-layl, I want to pray. My husband said, no, I don't want you to pray salat al-layl. No, it's good, honey, I want to pray. No, I don't want you. Islam says, if you obey your husband in nawafil, in wajibat, no. If my husband says, honey, don't pray salat al-zuhr today. Okay, thank you, honey. But I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry about that. Right? Yes. So salat al-fajr is just wajib. Here you cannot say that I have to listen to him. No. And the mustahabbat, if he said, don't do this mustahab, yes, you have to listen to him. And as a matter of fact, Islam in the Al-Maraj, they said, if you go ahead and do that mustahab against his will, not only it's not going to be accepted, you get sin for that fasting. If my husband said, no, don't fast or don't do this mustahab, and I said, no, I'm going to do it anyway, not only you're not going to get the reward, you're going to get sin for doing that as well. Because that is one of the rights that Allah gave it to him. That one have to listen. If he said, do not do this mustahab. That is one of his rights. Another right also, Islam has given to a man is that Allah has given the right of a man, that a man have the right to do what? Husnul mu'ashara, to live with the kindness with the husband. It's the right of a husband that the wife has to be kind to him too, nice to him, do anything that it takes, right, to be kind to him. Sometimes buy him a gift too. It's not just a man always buying flowers, buying cards. No. Sometimes it's a good thing also. A wife said, okay, I went to the store, I see these nice socks. I buy it to my honey. This is the nice socks for you. It's good thing. Right? I go to the store, I find some nice chocolate that my husband likes, you buy for him too. This is considered, because this one the Quran says, and the fact they say is mutual as well. وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ is the both side. That a woman also have to make sure that she goes out of a way to make sure that she does some things that will cause the family to be happy together. That is another right that Islam has given to a man. That is his right, that a woman has to create that environment, peaceful, caring environment, loving environment as well. That is another of his right. Another right of a man Islam has given to a man is that Islam has given to a man the right of bedding. A bed is this right? That Islam has given to a man. Is this right? That any time he wants his wife, she has to be there for him. Anytime. Unless at the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid. That is different. But other than that, anytime a man needed his wife, she has to be there for him. Unless she's sick, unless she's out of town, unless she has a good excuse, then that Islam says that is acceptable. But other than that, it's haram for a woman to be in the situation where her husband will need her and she is not there already. That is haram for a woman to do that. These are the rights of a man that Allah has given to a man too, that these are some of the right. A woman have to obey those rights as well, as Islam has given all of us those rights. But the last thing I just want to inject here, brothers and sisters, this right that Islam has mentioned is not something that we have to take it literally. That I expect my wife to do all these things 100% and I have to do my 100%. No, as they are mainly to help each other to work together. Those right, that's what they are. Is to work as a team. Give an example like a football, soccer. Soccer, when they play soccer, 11 teams this side, 11 teams that side, right? 11 people, 11 people. All of them, they have one goal. Their goal is what? To put the ball into that net of the opponent, right? But one person cannot do it. So how do they do? They have to work as a team, given to each other, trying to work together until they put the ball into that net. That is the goal. That in the life of a husband and wife, you have a common goal. And that is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To please Allah. Because the marriage is nothing but ibadah. It's an act of worship. So in that act of worship, we want to get to that level of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that process, we have to work as a team. Helping each other. Working as one and working together in order to be able to achieve that goal. So if we want to look at each one of the rights, you have to do your right. I have done mine, so you have to do yours. No, it doesn't work that way. It has to work as a team, work together, where we're helping each other to get to that goal, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to achieve those goals, Ya Rabbal Alameen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to know those rights and act upon those rights in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
There is a question that was asked about the word malakut. We hear those words a lot of time people use, and sometimes it's called alamul malakut. First, the word malakut is used in the Quran, I believe 4 times. One of them you can find in Surah Yasin. One of them you can find Surah Al-An'am, when Allah was talking to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. Allah said we wanted to show Ibrahim malakut of heaven and the earth, so that he will be among those who are certain. Yaqeen. That is one. Another one is Surah Yasin. Subhanalladhi biyadihi malakutu kullu shay. Malakut kullu shay. Now in the Quran, the word malakut comes from the word al-malak. Al-malak in Arabic, it has two meanings. One is, it means an angel. Malak. Right? And malak means al-qudra, power. Al-malaika, that we call al-malaika, it means those who have power. Right? And this word malaika, yes, it's used for angels, but it's used for every being that has the power to do something. It's called malak. And that's why you see in the Quran, when Allah asked the angels to bow down, Iblis was one of them too. And Allah didn't say, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْجِنِّ أُسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ. Allah is just the malaika. Even though Iblis was also a jinn, but he was also asked to do the sajda. And he didn't say, why? Allah said, al-malaika, you didn't call me. Because they say the word al-malaika doesn't mean angels. It means every being that can perform a sajda is asked to do so. One of them is Iblis as well. So the word al-malak, it means power. It means ability. That is one meaning. Another meaning, it means kingdom. It means power, rule. But in the Quran, any ayah that comes in the word of malakut, it means the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بِيَدِهِ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has the power and He controls everything in this world. That is the meaning of malakut in the Quran. But the same word malakut, when you come to in istilah al-fiqh, it has different meaning. Or when you come to ilm al-irfan, they have different meaning. When you come to aqaid, they also use it for different meaning. Right? But most of the time when you hear alam al-malakut, they referring these to alam al-dhar. Alam al-malakut, it has a lot of meaning. One time, sometimes you hear our scholars, they call it alam al-rawhani. Al-rawhani means the spiritual world, which is alam al-dhar too. Or alam al-malakut, they refer to that world, alam al-dhar as well. So alam al-malakut, it refers to the world which is the first world Allah created. And we mentioned before that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the one that He created human being, He created 6 different worlds we have to go through. One of them, the first and the foremost, is the first world that we all were together in that world at one time. And that is alam al-dhar, or alam al-rawhani, or alam al-malakut. That is the first world, and it's called alam al-malakut. That is one. Number 2 is called alam al-aslab. That is the world where from that world of alam al-malakut, we get transferred to the second world, which is alam al-aslab, to our fathers. First is the father. From alam al-malakut, you come to your father's spine. You're there for years. Then from that world, you will get transferred to the third world, which is called alam al-arham, to our mother's womb. And you see, even in Ziyarat of Imam Hussein, we mention all this. Right? Ashhadu annaka kunta nuran fil aslab. Aslab is the plural of sulb. And sulb, you should mention in Surah Al-Infitar. يَخْرُجُ مِنْ بَيْنِ السُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ. When Allah is talking about how we created human being, Allah said we created him from 2. One is from a man, one from a woman. Right? One of the place that a person is created from is from sulb. A sulb is the spine of the father. That is the second world. Then to the third one, alam al-arham, to the womb of the mother. That is the fourth, the third. That's the third. Then from that world, the alam al-shahada, we come from the alam al-arham, we get to come to alam al-shahada, which is this world. Then from this world, you go to the fifth world, which is called alam al-barzakh. Okay, alam al-barzakh. Or sometimes it's called al-qiyamah al-sughra. Minor qiyamah. That is alam al-barzakh. Then from that, you go to alam al-qiyamah. So alam al-malakut and alam al-qiyamah, we all going to be there together. We started together, we will end together as well. Right? But in between these four, we go, some people are ahead, some people are behind, and that is how it goes until we all meet in Alam al-Barzakh, and from Alam al-Barzakh, we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all at once. So when you hear Alam al-Malakut, it depends what the term the person is using. Alam al-Malakut, if it's the Quran, it means the kingdomship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we say Alam, the walls of Malakut, they mean Alam al-Dharr, the world of atom, where we started as the creatures of Allah, and then we get transferred to different kind of world. This is the first question that we have. Any question? Yes.
Any question? What do you want to ask?
Go ahead.
Do you have something in your mind? No, in English. Go ahead. Ask him. Okay, no.
Alhamdulillah.
Say something.
If anybody's got maybe too much eyes on him, that's why his question just moves to you. Yes. Yes, brother.
Yeah, generally, I mean, you have come across a lot of, I mean, you mentioned last time the divorce rate in Muslims here is about 60% plus. What are the main reasons that you have come across for those situations out of the hukuk that you have discussed? What are the key ones where people get into this problem?
Yes, as we mentioned, the rate of divorce in the Muslim world today is very high. Not just in America. Even when you follow in the news in the Muslim world, for example in Iran, today when you go, the divorce rate is high too. It's very unfortunate that even in the Muslim countries, the divorce rate is very high as well, for one reason or another. But generally speaking, when you assess the problems that we have in the Muslim world, there are a few important reasons that happens. Number one of the main reasons is materialism. Materialism is one of the bigger problems in the cause of a divorce. There are a lot of people, when they live together, they always look up to one another. Let's say, for example, a woman, her husband is a doctor, and she has a friend, her husband also is a doctor, right? Now what happens if the other husband, who they are all together in the same profession, right? Now he's driving Mercedes, and my husband drives Toyota Camry 2001, right? How come he drives Mercedes and you driving Camry? How could that be? You have the same profession, right? So he drives a Mercedes, you have to get Mercedes too. If you can't, how can we put ourselves low? Materialism is the big factor. That is one of the problems we have. Because people look that, if he has it, I should have it too. Without thinking that, no, their circumstances it might be different than ours. So why should I cut according to their size? No, I have to cut according to my size. That is one of the problems we have, and that is one of the cause of divorce. That is one. Number two, one of the cause of divorce is outside the influence. Sometimes the parents. Parents, Allahu Akbar. Some mothers of the husband, most men of the time, and sometimes you can get from the both sides. Sometimes the parents of the boy, the parents of the husband, they feel like they have to be controlled in the life of their son and his wife. Everything happens, they have to look. What did he buy to her? If it's, mashallah, the daughter-in-law wears some jewelry, how much is that? She wants a new shoe. How much is that? Right? So she wants to compare that everything that his son buys for his wife, she has to get more expensive than that. Right? If the son buys something, buys $1,000, she has to get $1,500. She's ahead of the daughter-in-law. That outside influence is the big factor. That is number two. And this outside influence, sometimes not the parents, sometimes bad friends. Bad friends also are one of the reasons. Alright? Sometimes you see a friend, she is divorced, she wants to see another, her friend also is divorced too. That is one of the issues. So outside influence, that is number two. Number three, one of the problems also is the environment. Which is, especially in America, there is something we call freedom. People, they feel like here, they have freedom. If I divorce a husband or a man, I can get the government to give me a house. I can get the support. So why do I need him? I don't need him. And you can see this everywhere you go. You know, one time I was driving to New Jersey, I saw, mashallah, these billboards, a big one. Do you want divorce? Call this number. You will think, are you going through a divorce? You need help? Call this number. No. Do you want divorce? Call this number. It's like we are working to separate the family, not to want the family to be together. The society we live in today, there is more encouragement of individualism. The children get 18 years, be on your own. Don't worry about your parents, right? A son becomes 18, don't be with your parents. You're older enough. Now you don't need them, right? Now a husband and wife, he wants to put order on you. Do this, do this. No, why do you have to listen to all this? You can be on your own. You don't need anybody to tell you what to do. So what do? Individualism is more propagated here than anywhere else. And that is also one of the factors of divorce rate in this part of the world. Another one also is lack of understanding the true concept of marriage. Lack of understanding. And that's what we mentioned before, that we need to have a system, a process, which is called counseling before marriage, at the time of the marriage and after marriage too, which is the Prophet standard. The Prophet standard that you put before he got Imam Ali and Zahra married, that is what he said for them. He taught them what to do before the marriage, and he taught them what to do at the marriage and what to do after the marriage as well. So that we get to know that when we are getting ourselves into marriage, we know what exactly to expect and what not to expect as well. That is one of the factors. Another factor also which they mention is the culture. That is why always it's good idea to marry with your culture. Marry among the culture is very encouraged. That's why when you go to hadith, sometimes people don't understand. When imams say that to people, they say, don't marry these people. For example, not because they're bad. No. Imam is talking to the companion, don't marry these people because your culture and their culture is different. If the culture is different, sometimes it creates a big problem. I'll give you one example of the culture differences. Now, for example, from Africa, where we came from, when an adult's talking to a minor, a child, you know what they do? They look down, out of respect and humble. That's what they do then. If an adult is talking to you, you're looking at their face, that's disrespect. Now you come to the United States, an adult is talking to you, you're looking down. What does it mean? Disrespect. Say, look at me in my eye, I'm talking to you, right? They want you to look eye to eye contact. So, no, my country, that is disrespect. Here, that is respect. Now, if you bring somebody from Africa who has this tarbiyah, and you marry him to somebody who also had this tarbiyah, what do you think is going to happen? Huh? The husband, every time you talk, he said, okay, honey. Right? And he thinks that she is disrespecting, he's disrespecting me. Right? What happened? Disaster. So the culture is very important, that if I am marrying somebody outside my culture, first I need to know the culture first. Not knowing the culture and getting into marriage is one of the big problems also that we have. And that is also one of the causes of divorces as well. So these are some of the causes that we have. There are some factors too, but these are the main ones that we just mentioned.
Sheikh, is there a document or is there a translation in English where Rasulullah has counseled Imam Ali before, during, after? Is it available? I think that should be used everywhere.
Absolutely should be. It is there in Arabic, but I don't know if it has been translated yet. I checked a couple of places.
Can you translate
I
by
haven't.
Ummah Convention? You have 3 weeks to do it.
Inshallah, I can try. I have the Arabic.
I think it's a great.
What do you call it? Yes, I can try. I don't know if I can do it all together, but at least we can choose one part, which is counseling before the marriage. At least that's a start.
I think that's
And then
great.
after that, we can do the rest of them. That is a good
I
idea.
think my father-in-law will really appreciate that.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
That's really good.
Yes.
Actually, when it comes to men rights, women rights, we always talk about, husband and wife. That's all.
Right.
When kids, they are in a household, and in some ahadith it says that listen to your mother 3 times and then 1 time father. But if father will say you can't go like for shopping, what about kids? What they need to do is that obligatory they can go outside.
Yes, the question, the children, who do they have to obey? We don't have the hadith that says obey your mom 3 times and not your dad. No. The hadith of the Prophet was, who should I be the most kind to? Liman ober. That's the hadith of the Prophet. Then the Prophet says, Ummuk, be kind to your mother. Then whom? Then your mother. Then whom? Then your mother. Then whom? Then your father. Then whom? That's it. Right? 3 for mom, 1 for dad. That's what the hadith says. But in terms of the obedience, yes, the children have to obey their father as well. So if the father said, don't go out or don't do certain things, as long as it's something that is within the Islamic frame, then yes, they have to listen to the father. They are not allowed to disobey their father. So the father, as we mentioned, see what Islam is looking at is that a family is like a small government. Right? You have a government where there is a president and he's taking care of the entire country. Now the house also is like a government. Then who runs it? The father. Right? And the father is the president and the mother is the vice president. Now, in that government, the children are supposed to listen to the father. When he tells them, don't do something, they're supposed to listen. If he tells them, do something, they have to listen. Unless if the father is ordering them to do something haram, then they have to listen. And Quran mentioned in Surah Luqman, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. If they order you to do something haram, don't listen to them. But other than that, in everything the father orders, the child has to listen and obey the father. Yes. Yes, sister.
What if the father tells you to do one thing, but the mother tells you to do something else? Do you still listen to your father?
Good question. Sometimes it happens, which in most cases, it shouldn't happen like that. You know, the father and the mother in the house are supposed to be on the same page. And this, it doesn't help the children, especially in good upbringing of the children. The children are supposed to see the father and the mother are working as a team. Even if there is any disagreement, it shouldn't be in the public, in front of the children. The children should never be given a chance to know that there is some slight disagreement. You know why? One, it affects the children. 2, the children will always take advantage of it. Yes, they do. You know why? Because if the child knows that mom and dad are not on the same page, right? If I ask daddy, say no, I'm going to go to ask mom too. Because mom is going to say yes, right? At least not because she wants to make the dad unhappy, right? So go and do it. Now why did it? No, mom said I can do it, right? Because if this happened in the family, the children will be raised and they look at the father or the mother as a bad person. Because mom always tells us yes, 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 yes. What you mean always tells no, right? But if you're all on the same page, it helps the family. So that is very important. In upbringing of child, the mother and the father always should be on the same page. Now, if the father and the mother tells you to do something, right? The father says yes, the mom say no. Now here they said it depends on what they ask you to do. If the father is asking you to do something that is wajib, right? And the mother is asking you to do something that is mustahab. No, just it's obvious. You listen to the wajib, not the mustahab. Or the other way around, right? But if the case they said, no, the father and the mother ask you to do something, they're both mustahab. For example, the dad says, do the laundry. The mom says, no, vacuum the house. Right? This one wants laundry, this one wants vacuum in the house. What should you do in this situation? Now here they said, yes, you should do both. Right? You should do both. If there is a way to do it, then you should do both. But the question is, if they all ask you to do something, right? One is telling you, do it. One is telling you, don't do it. It's the same thing. But do it from the father and don't do it from the mother. Here you have to look. If it's halal and haram, then you should obey who is telling you to do the right thing. And ignore the one who's telling you not to do the right thing. Yes.
I think I have it's a difficult question because sometimes when there are differences at home between a wife and a husband, they are not repairable in some cases. So what are the situations or circumstances when it becomes necessary to separate than to try to reconcile and then get together?
Yes, in Islam has given some of their process. The first thing that we really need to understand, Islam gave solution when you see problem is starting, not after problem comes. That is one thing we have to understand. Islam didn't wait until the problem happens, then he said, okay, let's do something about it. No. Look at Surah An-Nisa. What did Allah say? He said, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. When a man started to see a sign of a woman being disobedient, not doing what she's supposed to do, don't wait until she becomes, mashallah, now she hasn't been doing it for years, then now I want to repair it. No. Islam said from the beginning, which we call it today, prevention is better than cure. You don't wait until it happens. No, as soon as it starts, try to put an end to it. So the first thing what Islam said is, فَعِظُهُنَّ. When I see something is happening, disobedience, some problems, Islam said first, counseling. Just between the two of you. Talk to them. Right? Islam gives solution. When you go to our maraji, mashallah, and imams, they give a beautiful solution. Number one, counseling how? They tell you how to counsel it and the time as well. Right? Sit down, and the best time they say is at night. When everybody is quiet, the children are asleep, everybody is quiet, before the Fajr, you wake your husband up, your wife up, you want to talk. Let's talk. You discuss the problem, you solve the problem among yourself, you find a solution. If this is work, alhamdulillah. Now if it didn't work, what should we do? After counseling between the two, the Quran gives another solution. It says, فَبَعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهِ. Then he goes outside counseling. What is Islam's suggestion? One, a counselor from her side, the wife's side, and one from the husband's side. Meaning, you involve two. But this is if it's needed. But if you have one, the reason why Islam says one from the man, one from the woman, because so that way, they wouldn't be biased to one side. Alright? Now if my side is there, then everybody has a side to protect them and look for what is the best for the people, for the two, for the spouse. Now if this, you have one person who you both trusted, whether it's from the husband side or from the wife side. If you know that he is a person who said we're going to be fair between us, then one would be enough. Now if that didn't work, right, then Islam gives the third suggestion. What is it? Then Quran says, وَهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. Right? Then if that didn't work, Islam said then the divorce is the last option. When living together of two people becomes dangerous, they can't work together, their life together becomes harmful, then Islam said here they should go this way. And Allah said to both of them, وَإِنْ يَتَفَرَّقَا يُغْنِ اللَّهُ كُلًّا مِنْ سَعَتِهِ. Allah said at that point, I will be sufficient for both of them, whatever choice they make. So at that point, after we try every means necessary and it didn't work, then Islam says you should go separate way. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make things better for both of them at that point. Yes.
I'm looking for guidance. What is the right things to do? I mean, in this society that we live in, where your kids are finding their spouses or finding their companions. What do you recommend? Do we and with the cultures in perspective, Indo-Pakistani culture, engagement versus sigha versus muta versus nikah. If there's a gap between, or 2 years gap, or 3 years gap, where your kids are in school or colleges, or something like that. What is the right thing to do these days, where you're still within the Sharia and not breaking the rules, but also a mechanism to secure it,
Right.
the relationship. So what is the best thing to do these days, or that should be done always?
And Quran suggested two things. Number one, which is the best one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, like you're talking about when two people, individual, wanted to be with each other. So what should they do? And they're both in the school. They are not ready to get married for full time, right? And then they are not ready also to be apart. So what should Islam say? Now Quran mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, Allah said, وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفْ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا حَتَّى يُغْنِيهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Allah said they both should be patient until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala time comes. That's the first solution. That if they both can, the best for the brother and the sister, when they know that they cannot take the long-term commitment for each other, then Islam said they should be patient. Now you go to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the hadith, they mention how should I be patient? They say fasting every Thursdays and weekends. Whatever you can. It reduces those hormones and it helps as well. That is the first solution. Now if they say they cannot, it's not possible. I can't. Like some people, when they're hungry, you give them cookie. They say, no, cookie is not going to help. I need meal. Okay, go get the meal then. What can I do? Right? The real food he wants, he cannot help it. Because people are created differently. We can't assume that whatever medicine works for Zayd is going to work for Zahra. No. Right? Zahra and somebody, and then Zayd is somebody else. Right? Something might work for someone, it might not work for somebody else. So there have to be some kind of solution for everyone. Now here, Islam said, if they both cannot go through the long-term commitment, right, which is the nikah, which is the zawaj, then Islam said, then there is another option, which is called sigha, which is Islamic. It's there in Quran. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَا اسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْهُنَّ فَأْتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ فَرِيضًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly said that those who cannot marry for long term, which is permanent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have a second option of marriage, which is muta, temporary marriage. There is there as well. So that is an option, because if we don't practice these Islamic teachings, then the disaster is quite happening. So that is Islamic. So the first is being patient. Two is to get to the second what you call temporary. If that didn't work, then one have to go for the permanent marriage as well.
Thank you.
Sheikh, our Sunni brothers don't believe in this last option. How they interpret this ayah? They have a different interpretation, completely different interpretation of this ayah.
Yes, they know. They do have, their interpretation is that yes, it was valid. It is there and it's mentioned about this temporary marriage. But later on, it was forbidden by the Prophet.
I see.
I mean, it was one time allowed and then stopped by the Prophet. So the Prophet forbid it with the hadith. They say, yes, it's there in the Quran. In other words, they call it the ayah is abrogated. It's no longer effective. But they know that it's revealed, so it was revealed for that purpose. Yes. Sister.
Are there rights between siblings? Like, especially like the oldest sibling?
Yes, there is, of course, sister. See, Islam is a package. It doesn't leave anybody behind. Alright? Everybody, yes. Now, as we mentioned, that Islam is, has given the line. Right? The first one is dad. The second one is vice president, the mom. Mom is not there, the oldest. She becomes in charge. She's the next president. Right? Which means the little ones, they have to listen to the older sister. You have to listen to her. Yes. So yes, they have that right, that the oldest sibling becomes the next responsible one for the others if the mother is not there. Alright, this is in the house. But if, let's say in case, the father and the mother, if Allah takes them, meaning they're no longer alive, then the responsibility goes to the grandfather of the husband, which is the father, if he's alive. Right? Yes. He's the one becomes wali for the children. Alright? That is how it works. So it doesn't go to the older son that he has to take it. No. If the father, which is the grandpa, if he's living, then he's the one that's responsible after the father. Yes. Yes, sister.
Every rights have some responsibilities.
Definitely.
So when you have some rights, you have more responsibilities.
That's right.
You need to prove.
Yes.
I think what man has rights that wife should listen to her husband, because if she will listen, then whatever she will teach to other kids or teach to the family, there will be no conflicts between husband and wife,
Right.
if wife will listen.
Correct.
So I think rights and responsibilities, this two different things, but responsibilities comes with the rights.
Of course. There is no doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we say right, of course it's comes with responsibility. It's not a free card. There is nothing called free ride, right? So everything comes with responsibility. When Allah said a woman should listen to the husband, Allah didn't tell the wife to listen to the husband until He told him, take care of her first. Give her the place of stay, clothing, food, and all that. Then Allah said, now you have to listen to them. That's what He said in Surah An-Nisa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله به بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. That they have to spend on their wife. So when he spends his money, buying a house, clothes, food, he has to get something in return. One of the secrets is the obedience to him as well. So that is one of the rights. So yes, every right comes with the responsibility as well. Yes.
I was just reflecting on the story that you mentioned about the sister who her father was sick.
Yes.
I'm just it's a beautiful story, right? But I guess I'm trying to understand. At that time, this obviously had to have happened in Medina, right? It wasn't in Makkah. And the society at one point was completely on the other spectrum. The transformation is so remarkable. Obviously, Rasulullah was there.
Right.
But the thought process that's going in my head was, the women, how did she learn to know the rights in such a profound way and to obey it and implement in her life? How did she learn that? She didn't go to Masjid al-Nabawi every day to listen to the khutbahs of Rasulullah. How did that happen? Isn't that just amazing to just see that? How did that happen?
Very true.
Alhamdulillah, see, one of the reasons why the Prophet ﷺ, Allah ordered him, not by wish or his own desire. Allah ordered him to marry multiple wives is this. So certain things He teaches the women so they can teach other women as well. Because sometimes the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes some women come to him and they ask him some women thing. Well, the Prophet is a human being, he's shy. He can't talk to them directly. So what does he do? So the Prophet teaches his wives. and they teach those women as well. So what the Prophet did, some of his wives, they were teachers. They have like classes at home where they come and they take women class from the wives of the Prophet. One of them Salama. One of them is Zainab bint Jahsh. One of them is Safiya. They all got them private class with the Prophet about some of this, right? And then they also teaches those women as well. So that is what used to happen at those times, during those days.
There is another factor which Sayyid Qutb actually mentioned in one of his books. He says that the attitude of the people at the time of Prophet was also different from what, how we perceive or how we approach Islam. Because in that time, people knew that they did not know. So, they needed to ask questions.
Right.
Over here, mashallah, we know everything. We have seen our fathers, mothers do certain things. Ajia only comes when we start fighting and we don't resolve things. So if we only accept the fact that we do not know, I think that may change things.
That's right.
It's hard to express
Yeah, he says that we approach Quran by not as a book which tells us what to do, but as a sort of a proof of what we already believe in. So we go and only search for those verses which support our point of view, or which sort of gives more weight to what we are saying, not the other way around. So I go over there and say, tell me what should I do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one last question.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on the fact that a man can marry multiple times? That's something that I don't have clarity on in terms of, like, what are the conditions and how it can be done?
Okay, I think this also needs a full topic system. Really, but I'm going to briefly say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, about giving a man that choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَانْكِهُ مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاث وَرُبَعَ. Here there is some misconception too among some Muslims who believe mathna means two. Because some Muslims still, they believe that they are allowed to marry 9, not 4. Right? Here's the reason. They say the word mathna means two. Right? Which two? According to the understand, means start with 2 first. Wathulath, then you can marry also what they call 3. So they understand 3 plus 2, which makes what? 5. Waruba, which is 4. So another 4, which complete makes it what? 9. That is their understand. But when you come to Ahlul Bayt, they say no. 2 or 3 or 4. That's it. But you cannot exceed more than that. That is Islamic teaching. Then Quran says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. But if you're afraid, you cannot do justice between the 2 or between the 3 or between the 4, then stick to 1. So what it is that Islam has prescribed these options, not that because it's there I have to take it. No. If you ever come into the situation where you needed more than 1, then Islam say you can. But it's not like, oh, can I marry 4? Okay, let's get it. No, that's not what Islam is saying. Islam is saying that if I need, there is a need there. It's not like, oh, is this, I have to take it. No. If there is a need of having more than 1, then that's fine, Islam says. But there is a bunch of conditions with it. That is 1. And number 2, this is my personal. This is for me. If you want to live a long life, if you do, just stick to 1. But if you want an early grave, then you can take as much as you want. Yes. Because ours, the smartest people always took 1. The smartest people, like Imam Ali alayhi salam was Zahra, that's it. Right? Until she died, and she suggested to him, the Prophet, only Khadija, until the rest of them, Allah told him, do it. It was order from Allah. If you were to live the Prophet with his life, with his choice, he would have married more than 1. That is for sure. But it was order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the smartest people always take to 1. Now see if you're smart or not.
Allah.